5:04 at KPEL. It is Go Acadiana with Ken Romero.
And Dr. John.
John, I tell you what, today has just been such a whirlwind of activity. I turned around, and behind me was Dee Stanley and Joel Robideaux, and it's like, I thought...
Together.
Together, and it's like, I know we had them scheduled, but because of all kinds of things going on in my head, I didn't know whether it was yesterday or tomorrow, so one way or the other. So anyway, in the studio with us, Joel Robideaux and Dee Stanley. Good evening, gentlemen.
How you doing? Hey, guys.
We're doing great. And, John, I get to see these two gentlemen again tonight, and we're doing a forum in Milton, and some other guys are going to be there, I think, some of the sheriff candidates.
I'm told the sheriff's candidates will be there. There are several of those, 4 of those, only 2 of us, so you're going to have your hands full tonight.
So it'll either be twice as much of you guys or half as much of them, whichever you prefer. So, John, where would we like to start off with these guys first? Because I would like to first get the program started so they can take off to go to Milton in case, it's a long drive or whatever.
Well, I guess since we've had all the softball questions asked to them already, let's just go for the jugular, like right off the bat.
Okay, John.
You guys have been on the campaign trail now for several months, and before that, you've been working in government for a number of years. Both of you have dedicated your lives to public service. When you're out there on the campaign trail, what are the things that people are telling you they want to see done? What are the changes they would like to see? Not what you've supposed or come up with, but what are things, some novel, interesting things that people are telling you?
Either one? Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, this is Joel. So I'd say, it really does depend kind of where you are. If you're in the Karen Crow area, then drainage is a big issue for those guys, and they'd like to see some more effort there. If you're pretty much anywhere else, it's roads and traffic. I mean, they'd like to see, us figure out a way to get that funded and get our roads and our traffic management in better shape. I think that's pretty universal, no matter what doors you're knocking on. And then everyone, everything from red light cameras to, what Parks and Recreation, then it varies. It drops off significantly, though, I must say, after roads, drainage and Karen Crow, and then it's just a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Simply put, there are a lot of number one priorities, and the number one priority, of course, is the thing that's the most important to you. I think Joel touched on traffic and roads and infrastructure. That's true of local government just as it is true of state government. I don't think the state has built enough state roads. I don't think we built enough local roads. I don't think the federal government has built enough federal roads. Interestingly enough, even though we don't control it or have a say-so over it directly, and Joel and I have spoken about this at the forums, we get a lot of questions about education. And education certainly is significant as it relates to the school board and building new schools and providing infrastructure. And as it relates to local government, workforce and workforce development. As good as we are at creating those best of lists and creating jobs, we need to have the workforce to be able to do that. So we get that a lot as well. Crime in certain areas, although I think that Lafayette is a safe community. We continue to be a safe community. The events of the past several months notwithstanding, violence did touch our community in a horrific way, but for some crime and crime enforcement, law enforcement becomes an issue. And then, of course, just taking care of business, making it as clean as we can. Project Front Yard is, I think, at the forefront of that, celebrating a 1-year anniversary. So there are a lot of number one priorities out there.
I find it amazing that you gentlemen, as John said, both have been in public service most of your entire lives. And when you get right down to it, you guys basically see the City-Parish the same way, but it's just how will you implement some changes or how will you implement some changes? And I just kind of wonder about that. Usually you see some people that are just diametrically opposed to each other, and that's not the case in this particular case. It just happens to be that you're both running.
Yeah, I mean, the taxpayers, I don't think, ask a whole lot of their elected officials. They want you to be open, they want you to be honest, and they want you to get in a room and work with whoever you need to work with to get things accomplished. And so, I feel like I've done that, obviously, in Baton Rouge. It's, sometimes frustrating and you beat your head against the wall, but you still have to do it. You don't always agree. But it's something that I think the voters expect of us, and so I'm free to do it.
Yeah.
And I think Joe brings that perspective. I, of course, bring the local perspective. I've been City-Parish Chief Administrative Officer for 12 years. Before that, was a student of this government. Have worked under 3 mayors, Douglas Strapp, Kenny Bowen, and we call Joey the mayor of the City-Parish president, but he also functions in the position that the mayor would function in Lafayette. Was a director of the city council office and worked for 2 different city councils. And then, of course, as a reporter, doing kind of what you're doing, Ken, with a microphone, being a student of government and investigating government, working around government, covering hundreds of council meetings and being involved with budgets on the local process. I think that's what I bring is that perspective, and that my perspective is more of a local perspective and working with the team locally.
Yeah. John, you had a question.
Yeah, one of the things when you're out there and talking, and we get this a great deal, is a lot of people see the similarities. I mean, you bring a lot to the table. It's not like you've got someone from one extreme party and then someone from another extreme party. But in your mind, what is the thing that is the thing that distinguishes you the most from your opponent? I mean, it could be personal skill, personal training, whatever it is. But what is it, when people are so close on many issues, they look for what is that difference? And in your mind, what is the biggest difference?
You want me to go first again?
Go right ahead.
Well, I'll take it first.
Okay.
I mean, I think we just touched on that a little bit. I think it's just a question of perspective and where you are at the 30,000 foot level. And Joel will speak to his expertise and his experience as a CPA and working with the state and the state budget. My expertise and approach is working with local councils, a city parish council, working with the previous city council before that, being involved in a government where the 3 charters were developed. Again, I don't think there's any question about the years we've spent in the public limelight, 12 each, and maybe me a little bit more than that in a different way, you and your CPA business. But I think it's just that's the perspective, is just we come into this and the wall plug is just from a different direction.
Yeah, so I feel like my time in Baton Rouge has served me well in that I understand if we're going to get money throughout the parish, you can't just always go to taxpayers for that. Taxpayers feel like, hey, we sent a lot of money to Baton Rouge, we need to get some of that money back, and so we were able to do that. Whether it's Senator Cortez on his side of the district, Senator Mills for his little bit, the House members, we all try to get what we can for our communities back home. And Lafayette's a donor parish. They always send more money to Baton Rouge than they'll ever get back out, because there's parishes that just don't have any tax base at all.
Sure.
And so they'll need some state services. But I think that's, from my perspective, I'll be able to go to Baton Rouge, keep the relationships, keep the doors open, and hopefully help those elected officials that we elect this coming fall to serve us in Baton Rouge, and help those guys and make the case why we deserve some capital outlay dollars for our roads that are here.
John, your question?
One of the things that we saw over the last census was that when you take out the growth in Lafayette Parish, the state's growth was actually flat, and a lot of that due to Katrina, Rita. But Lafayette is experiencing significant growth. It doesn't appear that we're going to have any declines in growth. So whatever problems that we may have right now, that'll only be exacerbated. Now, hold on, Ken, that means made worse. I just had to clear it up.
I got it, John.
No, I knew you two guys knew, but Ken, it's over his head. But anyway, so what is our plan for managing population? Because 10 years will be upon us very quickly. 15, 20 years will be on us very quickly, and we'll look back and say, why didn't we do this? What are those pressing needs now to handle that type of growth?
Well, you have to have an ambitious capital program, and I think that we have one. We can't build them fast enough, wide enough, long enough. We need 2 bridges across the river immediately. We need the one at South City Parkway, but we have to be cognizant of the impact that will have on residents on each side of the river. I think that's a fewer number, certainly, than where we were with South College about 4 decades ago. We definitely need to build South College, John, but the problem with South College are the approaches. A bridge is only as good as its approach. If we had 2 more bridges at Ambassador Caffrey, we would still have the same problem because of the intersection at Johnston Street and the intersection at Colley Saloon. So with Pinhook Road as one of the approaches, being 4-lane through the oil center and no room to really widen or do much with Pinhook Road until you get to that approach, I don't think the engineers will tell you that South College will not move the traffic that it would have moved had it been built in the 1970s. But as we learned from the ice storms, the more crossings we have of the river, those don't happen very often, but when they do, you got to have as many crossings across the river. And of course, when you don't have an emergency, they move traffic on a day-to-day basis. So the more crossings we have, I think, the better. The issues that we have, and Joel can touch on this, that many of the problems that we have are with state roads, and the state has an issue. They're doing what they can with funding. We've taken over Kali Saloom Road in a swap that we did for Ambassador South, so the state could build Ambassador South. The state, I believe, has just awarded the contract for Vero School Road, and that's going to be a great thing as it relates to traffic between, Vincent getting on to Highway 90. The city's responsibility is the section between Pinhook and 90, and I think that needs to be widened and improved in concert with the state, and we have a plan to do that. So, it's a question of getting the infrastructure built, and because we know that folks are going to come. The demographers believe that Lafayette Parish is going to grow perhaps by as many as 90,000 over the next 20 years, and we have to, in concert with the state, while the state's building state roads, we have to improve local roads, because if we don't, we're going to be Baton Rouge.
Joel?
Yeah, well, let's hope we're not Baton Rouge. It's roads, and then it's roads, and then it's roads. And so we have to look at, what we have available capacity-wise and see what we can do to enhance some of that capacity so folks will be able to move around. The Johnston Street is a state road because it's actually Abbeville Highway. Now, The state, when they built it, didn't instruct Lafayette to build a city on both sides of it and turn it into what is effectively a city road. And so we have to have those relationships with the state to say, look, we know we did this and we really kind of created our own problem, but this is the main thoroughfare through our community, and it's a state road, so we need to work in conjunction with the state leaders to be able to get the funding to improve that. But at the end of the day, people aren't as interested in the details as they are in get the money, get the roads fixed. And so, again, I go back to the relationship with the elected officials from the state. It's very important that we can go there, grab as much of our tax dollars as we can every year to make sure that we can take care of the 60 to 90,000 folks that are going to move here over the next 15 to 20-something years. As
somebody who's been in Lafayette so long, longer than both you guys almost put together, I can remember when that section of Johnston Street right beyond Ridge, beyond Judy's Inn was gravel. So I've been here a long time. And, I appreciate the fact that both you guys want to do something about roads, because that's the most important thing people talk to me about is roads in Lafayette. And we're talking to Dee Stanley and Joel Robideaux this afternoon. I know you guys have got to, make plans, maybe grab a bite to eat before we all go to Milton tonight. So we thank you for coming in, and we'll call it quits for now, and we'll continue our conversation tonight in Milton.
Good to be. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate you so much.
See you tonight, Joe.
See you in Milton.
Yeah, it seems like these guys have never met. It's just an awkward, strained relationship here in the studio. John and I will be back, but before we do, John, you and I have got to do the KPEL J&J Exterminating Pest of the Day today.
Oh my God!
And we got a couple of those, John. My original thought was to do the lady whose kid tested positive for cocaine.
Yeah, but we can mention that when we come back.
But let's go to the guy from Florida, and I don't remember what town in Florida. But anyway, the guy's going down LA 30 at 2:00 in the morning this morning. There was a state trooper vehicle parked across the road because there was a prior accident, and they're clearing it up. The trooper's got his lights going. He's blocking the whole road, and this doofus just drove right into him. That is our pest of the day today. Ricky Denny Jr. of Brooksville, Florida, tested 3 times the limit for DWI. He is our J&J Exterminating Pest of the Day. John, we'll be right back with more on Go Acadiana. In the meantime, I got to see if I can bring up some traffic here, because we do have some traffic to tell you about. There's always something going on in Lafayette, and we're talking to these guys about traffic. Well, duh, there's always something going on in Lafayette. Usual slowdowns and accidents in usual places like on Ambassador Caffrey, and police are directing traffic at various locations. Let's be extra careful on the way home today. East Ponamouton Road at Moss Street, we got a fresh accident. Pinhook Road, the 1700 block, and in Youngsville, Chemin Metairie at Savoy Road, a big one there. Let's be extra careful today. You're driving home with KPEL.